I'm Sou Fujimoto from Tokyo, and thank you very, very much for coming today to this lecture and the exhibition. So after, I will do the about 1 hour lecture, and then you will go down and to see many, many models and to have nice wines and food after that. So I will quickly finish. Anyway, okay, so today I'd like to show briefly about my thinking, and some of them are ongoing and some of them are finished. The title of this exhibition and this lecture, Architecture as Forest, it is a very simple statement and not a logic, not a theory, but the forest, I have a very personal roots to the forest because I was grown up in the very, very countryside, and in my childhood days I was playing in the forest. So that is a very personal starting point of my perception of the space. But the another moment came when I moved to Tokyo. As you know, Tokyo is a super artificial city, but I was surprised because in the middle of the Tokyo we have a small winding pathway, and the street and the city are made by small wooden houses and the small many pieces. And then I felt kind of a similarity, surprising similarity between the forest and the Tokyo situation, because both of them are kind of between the chaotic and the order situation. Or both of them are made by smaller, different scales, but made by the group of the particles or smaller pieces. And both of them has the diversities, and both of them are the natural but strict order, and both of them has a really comfortable feelings inside. So that is the moment I realized that such kind of a nice in-between situation between nature and architecture could be some potentials to be developed for the future architecture. So that is the beginning of my architectural experience. And I'd like to show you some of the images of these exhibitions. Started last year in the small town in Germany, the Bielefeld. And this is the building by the right hand, you could see the buildings by Philip Johnson, the only one building in Europe he made. And this is the Kunsthalle Bielefeld, and this show started and curated by the Friedrich Meschede. He is in the he's sitting in behind. But yes, this is the show. And now, yeah, it is a great pleasure to have a traveling show in here, Geneva. And this, you can see the wooden structure in front of the garden, in front of the buildings. It is the precise rebuild of my early works, final wooden house. So sponsored by the local wooden company and the local carpenter. So it is made in front. And then, I'm sorry, it is me. And yeah, we made the structures by plexiglass and trees. Yeah, you could see in front of the entrance in this Geneva. But this is the structures representing simply the nice mixture of the nature and architectures. Every box, transparent box, has the trees inside and stacked randomly. So transparent structure box is representing the artificial architecture-like space, but it has nature inside. And these strict box are randomly stacking up, so the whole appearance is more like an in-between situation. And then, yeah, this was the entrance of the museum. And then you could see the many models spreading around through the wall, through the space. And in this Bielefeld, Kunsthalle Bielefeld, the floor is this kind of a flooring. And in here, it's more like a concrete floors. So the situation is completely different. But I believe the atmosphere of the exhibitions in such a different situations, but still it has a spirit in it. And of course, this time, the space is so huge, one space, So it's more, how to say, dynamic to see all the models in one view, and you could walk freely around these models. In this Kunsthalle Bielefeld, we have different sections in different spaces, and you could see the beautiful greens outside, or you could see different formations. So, today I'd like to start from the project, one of the most important projects of my office currently. It is in London this summer, the Serpentine Pavilion. And of course, as you know, the Serpentine Pavilion project has a very, very beautiful history in this 12, 13 years. And the huge, big names of the architectural history has made their own unique pavilions. And of course, last 2 years, one of my favorite architects from Switzerland, Peter Zutto and Herzog and de Boron, they did the amazing pavilion. So it's a big pressure to design something after them. But anyway, I have to do that because it's a great pleasure. So we try to create something, of course, to make the big, beautiful contrast from the previous or the 2 years ago pavilion. But of course, the main purpose is to create something new for me and something surprising, but at the same time, it should have a nice origin to my architectural career. So it should be the nice integrations from my past works, but not just the result from my past work, but something to indicate or to show, to inspire a future project. And I hope you could see the structure in it. It is almost blurring in the cloud, the sky. But my intention is something like that, to create the architectural structure, but it is not like a strong architectural structures, but more like a blurring, ambiguous existence, like a cloud. And the actual structure is made by 20 mil thin steel pipe to create the grids, many grids. The grid size is a 40 centimeter smaller one and the 80 centimeter bigger one. It's a combination of the grids. So the whole structure is made by the grids, and the shape, grids is very strong order, but the whole shape is more like a soft or organic or ambiguous. So you could see the beautiful contrast between such a strict order and the soft appearance. And as you know, the surroundings is quite beautiful. The green, beautiful trees in the Kensington Garden, and the building left hand is the Serpentine Gallery, and the right hand garden is the site. So we try to create something outstanding in the garden, but at the same time something nicely melting into the surroundings, and to create the almost vanishing or translucent, transparent structure. So this is a view inside. So these grid structures has a kind of the different densities of the grids. So in some area you could more feel transparency, and in some area you could see more repetition of the grids. So the density is like a wall, aerial walls surrounding you. So I try to create such kind of a diversities of the experience. In a sense, this is like the crowd-like structure, but in some area it's more dense and intimate, and in some other areas you could feel more transparent and nicely connecting to the surroundings. So yeah, according to the beautiful green surroundings, sometimes I like to take such a greens inside and sometimes block the greens from outside. So transparency, translucency is creating such kind of differences of the experience. And we put the many polycarbonate, I'm sorry, it is not quite comfortable to, so.
It's working.
It's okay? No, it's working. So it's, okay, it's more comfortable. We put the many polycarbonates, transparent discs, floating inside of the frames to block, of course, to block the rain, to protect, to create the shade or the shelter. And the reflection of the discs is more increasing the blurring boundaries, I believe. And some area, you could see, we made the stepping seatings like a, amphitheater. So people can choose to sit on the frames or to choose on the chairs, like usual cafe chairs. Or they like to use this space for various different uses. Usually this is a cafe, but in every night they will have a lecture or performance or official dinners or something like that. So I try to create the flexible, really flexible space. And sometimes this whole structure is like a landscape, so people can be more relaxed to sit on or to choose the shaded areas or something like that. But if the performance started, the whole structure is like the theater, and this whole structure is surrounding you to create the loose boundary. And this is some of the first sketches to show, yeah, it's a really messy sketch, but to show what was something ambiguous I intended. Or in this sketch, you could see kind of a stepping ideas. And of course, the main purpose of this pavilion is to create a place for people to have a rest or to visit and stay in some period. So I like to create some kind of a nice seating areas or nice place for people. So these stepping ideas is coming at the beginning, but how to realize in such a huge structure was the problem. And this is some of the images of our study models. Every time we started from seeing these kind of a strange small models, and some of them are really quite conceptual. So you could see the similar models in the exhibition space. So actually this is a real study model to give a form to the ideas. And left hand is myself, sometimes to change the models or cut or put again, something like this. And you can see here the Frangeria, like the waving plates, we are trying to do that. Because at that time I was thinking about to create like a hill-like, landscape-like space for people to sit freely on it. But of course it's too much like too similar to the Frangeria, so we try to go beyond that. And finally, the basic idea is to make these kind of a landscape by grids, not by concrete or not by, the artificial materials, artificial object, but to translate these space or these forms by the mesh of the grids. Then the whole structure is more ambiguous, invisible, but still you could find a place to sit on. So the sketch below is showing some ideas of the grids. The upper world is more like a stepping layers of the stepping areas, but more grids ideas is appearing. And then finally, after deciding the basic strategy of the ideas, we made the 1 to 10 model. Yeah, as you can see, it's it's about 2.5 by 2.5, it's huge. But it's almost, we should have done that because it's almost impossible to feel or to understand in the computer graphics surfaces. It's too much complicated. So we have to decide the shapes, we have to decide the whole everythings. So we decided to make the 1 to 10 model. So we used the 2 mil wooden bar, very thin bar, and then each grid 4 centimeter or 8 centimeter. So 10 or more students or my staffs spent a long time to put it one by one to finish this one. And this is the the plan. It looks quite strange because it is really strange shape, ambiguous shape, but you could see this space inside is somewhere like this. You have a two entrance, the bigger entrance and the narrow entrance, and this area is more stepping up, like this. And this area outside also it is like a hill stepping up and covering the whole space. And we have another stepping areas. You could go up and go away like this. So various different stepping areas or flat areas, low ceiling areas and high ceiling areas, and the highest point is about 6.7 meters something. So it is the landscape made by grid mesh. And then this is the conceptual sketch. This is the shape of the serpentine gallery buildings, and then the whole grids, and the grid has the difference of the density, so you could find the right place where you can feel comfortable. So in these drawings you could see how simple it is, because all the grids, all the structure are made by the grids, but you could see how complex it is and how complex are the experience. So I like such kind of a nice contrast or nice integrity or nice integrations of the simplicity and the complexity. Or I could say the nice integration of the artificial order, like a grid, and the natural order of this organic shape. Or maybe we can say nice integration of the outside and inside. That kind of a contrast is really, really clear, but we can make nice integration through architectural innovation. And then, yeah, this is something like this. In this office we made, and we put some parts, some grids, or we eliminate some grids. Now I myself, of course, final decision of the shape should be done by me, so I myself watch, and sometimes they add 2 grids on it and then take off 2 more grids here. Such kind of a really endless process we did. And finally, we have to decide, so we decide. Yeah, many younger people. And recently we have more foreign people than Japanese people. So yeah, really kind of an international team made. And this is myself, so just looking at the model and almost, how to say, embarrassed by this kind of a complexity. It's impossible to know clearly what it is or know clearly what is the final shape. So one by one, if I add something, then the whole situation is changing. And if I eliminate something, the whole situation is different. And of course, in a practical meaning, I have to do the structural solutions as well. So we are collaborating with the engineering company in London, and they will do the calculation by computer, and the design feedback is coming again. So not only just the shape of the problems, but the structural problems and the feasibility and how to make it. So it's a huge process of the realization. So we got mainly they have a team in London. So they have a structural engineer teams and the fabrication teams and the management teams, and we are the design teams. Every day the conference call or Skype meetings to decide, yeah, we have to follow the regulation, small regulation, precise regulations. So it has been, in these 4 months, it was really, really challenging and precious moment for us. And finally, yeah, this is like this. And now the prefabrication already started. And they said the schedule is quite limited. So, and all the pipes should be welded by hand. The manufacturer has a nice machine to laser cut nicely these pipes, but final welding should be done by people, by persons. So they said there's 3 teams, 24 hours, so each team 8 hours, welding for 2 months. So it is kind of a crazy process of just welding. And it's now going on. And the groundbreaking will be done in a week. So it is the final moment for us to finish this one. And the opening is the beginning of June. So you can come, the exact day is the 8th of June, the public open, until the mid-October. So I hope you to feel exactly what it is. I myself likes to know what it is, because watching these images or to see the 1 to 10 model, but it's almost impossible to feel the real feelings. So for me it's getting more and more exciting to feel on site the real space feelings or real translucent feelings. So it could be, it is impossible to feel in the picture images or on the website. It's quite important to visit the site, I feel. And then I'd like to show another great project. Yeah, you could see these models, not exactly this model, but these project models on the exhibition as well. And this is the private second house, weekend house in Spain. And now the design is almost finished, so we will build maybe this year or next year. And you could see we used the natural wood, not, how to say, cut, not the same size, but the irregular size natural wood to create the grids. And here you could see again the beautiful contrast of the grid strict order and the irregular natural shape, organic shape. But that is the point. We try to create something beyond the division of the grid order or organic orders, but I like to make the combination of that. So the first idea is to create the shaded areas, because this is Spain and the sunlight in the summertime is very strong. So I try to create a natural shaded areas, like in the forest. So in the combination of these grids, in some area the densities of the grid is very dense, and in some area less dense. It's relating to the system of the structures, but at the same time it relates to the space inside. So the harmonized between the structure and the space inside, we are designing different densities, and then inside of this steel structure, wooden structure, we have a glass box as a living space. Because this is a shade, so we can put just a glass box as a living space. And inside of the living space, you could feel the nicely blocked sunlight. And we have 3 private rooms. So the private rooms is more like made by the stone wall structure. So it is like, how to say, private areas is more like existing ruin structures. And then some people come and to create the natural wooden hut and then make a glass box. Such kind of a simple story. We have a swimming pool as well to swim through this wooden structure. And within this structure we have a terrace in the middle of these densities of the wooden grids. So it is like a bird's nest. You could feel really comfortable, protected by the densities of the wooden structure. And sorry, I hope you to see these areas, the whole areas are shaded by the wooden grids, and backside we have a private rooms. This is made by stone. And here, this is open space. It's more like a shaded area, and we put glass box here inside. And this is shaded terrace area. So we have a shaded outside area, shaded inside area, and more protected, strongly protected area, and no shaded outside area. And if you go above, then it's getting more open, but you could find a nice private terrace above. So by using this simple structure, we could provide the diversities of the space. And this is a section, sorry, almost the white, but this is the wooden structure. And this area, glass box, this area, open terrace, but shaded. If you go up, then this is an open terrace above the structure and the private area here. This is a render. The site is, these kind of natural surroundings. This is between Barcelona and Valencia, and not on the coast, but a little bit inside. So the beautiful mountain views and full of natures, like this. And then if you come inside, you could see how nicely the wooden shade could work. And this structure is, of course, not like a usual wooden structure, so we are now discussing with the local architects and the engineer and the local contractor how to make it. And this kind of a small grid system, in case of the Serpentine, 40 centimeter and 80 centimeter, and in case of the Spanish private house, it's more, how to say, diverse difference of size, but relating to my really early works. The left hand is an almost 12 years old, very early project, really conceptual project, to challenge to the new relationship or new understanding of the human body and the architecture. So we put the 35 centimeter stepping areas, and this stepping, it sometimes works as a furniture, seating, or tables, or shelves, or sometimes the walkway, or staircases. So in here, I try to create the nice integrations of the furniture scales and architecture scales and the landscape scales together. So the whole house is like an artificial landscape, and it has a simplicity and it has a complexity inside. And if you like to behave as you like, according to, inspired by these kind of stepping landscapes, you can behave as you like. And this diagram says how people can react to this kind of a simple system of the stepping areas. And this is another trial, of course, the same roots, but different realizations. And it has again 35 centimeter wooden block to stack them up to create the cave-like landscape. And in here, the more dense or more tight integration of the different things are realized. Not only the structures, not only the materials, but the insulation things or the materiality things, the window frames, or everything are integrating in this one material. And you can see many study models in the exhibition. That was the real study model. So we tried to make it in form at first, and then change to the wooden pieces, and going back to the form again. Such kind of many feedback are repeated. And finally we decided the final shape. Yes, the concept is the same. So divide the usual floor height in more smaller pieces, and recompose the whole structure of the architecture. So in here, and in this exhibition, you could see using the smaller pieces or smaller particles to re-understand the architectural form itself. Usually we have a 3.5 meter or 4 meter story height, but I try to divide it in much smaller pieces, maybe 1 to 10 much smaller pieces, and then recreate or recompose the whole system of the architectures by such a smaller pieces. And then you could feel the different dimensions of the architecture. And again, the Serpentine Gallery grid scale is the different examples. And maybe you could see in the exhibitions, it is made by many smaller models. And you could easily feel the strolling all around the space. And then it is the whole space is a one space installations, but at the same time, each small model has its own meanings. So in here, the nice contrast or nice integrations of the smaller pieces of the models and their the network, huge network of the smaller pieces. And this is a real one. You could see the previous one in the Bielefeld is rebuilt one, and this is a real one. And you can see how the human scales and the architectural scales are nicely retranslated. And this is another example. It's finished last year, and the private house. But again, I try to recreate the relationship between your behaviors, human body scales, and architectural scales. And in here, we divided the house floors in much smaller pieces, like a furniture scale, and then recompose every floors in a different levels. So you could feel this is like a stacking furniture house, or you could feel this is a small but one space with many, many different levels. But such kind of a different understanding of the space is, I believe, the richness of the space. And you could see how small each pieces, each floors are. So some of them like these tables, and some of them, biggest one is 2.5 by 3 or something like that. So it's quite small. And it is in Tokyo, so as I said, the Tokyo situations are made by smaller pieces of something. So it is nicely continuous from the Tokyo crowded smaller pieces situations to the more private area situation. And the left hand two people are the clients. So the clients are the younger couple. And this house of course may look very strange, I have to say, but the inspiration is from the discussion with the client at the beginning. And they said their lifestyle at the time was like nomado in their house. It means they don't have a fixed place to do something, to eat or to read or something, but they said they are moving around and find the comfortable space on each different occasions and to do something. So they say they are moving around the house like a nomado to find the right place according to the time or the seasons or their feelings. So I thought, if we can provide the variations of the areas, variations of the space, even though that kind of space are quite small, but the variations, diversities of the space, then they could enjoy their life more and more like a nomado. So we made a simple model and make a presentation. And then they quickly understand our concept, and they said, it's exactly what we like to do, what we like to live. And this kind of openness they like to have. So it's quite transparent and it's quite open, but they like to live in that. Of course, they have curtains on it, but surprising things was they said they like to design curtains. They like to design the position of the curtains. And then after 1 month something, I visit again this house. And the curtains, usually we put the curtains just behind the glass, but they arranged not only putting the curtains just behind the glass, but sometimes they put the curtains in between these kind of floating plates to create the layers of the spaces. And then I understand how deeply they are sharing the concept of this house. Because if you put the curtain just behind this, then it is just a one boring envelope. But if they put the layered curtain, they could choose more open fittings areas or more protected areas, and they can make, not only by architecture, but the arrangement of the curtains, they can make such kind of in-between spaces. So I felt I'm very happy to have such a nice client. And you can see in this model, this is a model, and you could see the similar models on the exhibition space down below, how we treat these kind of furniture scales or daily staff scales and architecture scales window frames or staircases, everything's, of course, some kind of a diversity of the scales they have, but we treated these kind of a different scales in a equally. We recomposed the architecture by these kind of a smaller scales. So that is the main point of this project. And again, yeah, it's transparent, but I'm sorry, yeah, we take off all the curtains for the photo shooting. So, and I myself feel more, interesting to have such a curtain designed by them. It has more depth of the space inside. And you can see, yeah, this is the neighbors. She has, this is neighbor. She has many small greens. And this is the Tokyo situations. We don't have a big green, but we have a group of the small greens, or small houses, or small floatings. So the whole Tokyo are made by such kind of groups, amazing groups of the smaller pieces. And this is another view of Tokyo, a nice small pathway. Maybe this is around 4 meters or something. But then the street view is made by many, many different kinds of smaller scale pieces. The house, of course, small, but then you have something around you, and the electricity cables is going above. So the whole situations, this is the good character of the Tokyo. And as I said, I felt really, really amazing because this is super artificial, but I felt the strong similarity between this Tokyo situation and my hometown or my childhood days forest image. So that is the surprising moment for me to understand the new possibilities in between nature and architecture in it. Yeah, you could see how the smaller pieces are collecting together to create the urban textures. Again, yeah, not only the architectures, but these kind of object. And in here, the amazing things is private things and public things are melding together, mixing together. So such kind of nice in-between situations are the character of the Tokyo, and the characters I gathered inspirations from it. So you could see, yeah, in a sense, this is a really messy street view. And in a sense, this is a very beautiful forest. But I feel kind of a similarities in this strong contrast. And in here, yeah, I believe this is rather beautiful than the usual Tokyo street view, but not, too much different. More, having a nice root on Tokyo situation. So in here, of course, this is not the final last image, but I'd like to say these kind of between situations, in between situations, between city and architecture. It says, yeah, like a Tokyo situations, city are defined by architecture or more smaller pieces, so melding together. So you could find something between, or between architecture and landscape. Yeah, like a serpentine pavilion or like a stepping project, conceptual project. We could find something new between landscaping and architecture, or furniture and architecture. And between inside and outside, it is more relating to the Japanese traditional things, but yeah, we have sometimes make up blurring boundaries to create not only completely outside, not only completely inside, but some in-between situations. And if we have in our daily life such kind of in-between situations, it means we could have more choice, more open areas or more protected areas. You could choose. Like a house in Spain, if you like to make a privacy, then you could come into the stone wall areas. If you go a little bit more open feelings, you could go into the living space or go out to the shaded terrace or upperwards. So such kind of the gradient situations could be created between inside and outside. And the last one is between nature and architecture. This is one of the most deepest topic, deepest questions. But yeah, as I said, the contrast between Tokyo and my hometown forest, it has something similarity and it has a great contrast or differences. So when two things has a similarity and a contrast, we could find something very, very new between that. And this is another example. The project now we are doing in Tokyo, and the first requirement were very, very simple. They like to have, they are the developer, and they like to have some cafe and event space in the nice corner of the Tokyo street. So the first requirement is just like this space behind. But we propose some more boxes in front, yeah, actually between the required programs and the street. It is half public terraces and half, some of them has a glass, so it's a more private use programs, but the mixtures. And people basically can go up by staircases, so it is like a recompositions of the street in a three-dimensional way, or the urban plaza by the groups of the terraces. And yeah, this is the current situation. It's a very pity, but this is the first model. It's a huge, but it's shrinked. Always that kind of things happen, but anyway, it's shrinked, but still 6-7 boxes we have. And then I think this is a kind of beyond the requirement we proposed, but the clients, the developer, really enjoy these ideas because they are developers, so they are not doing only architecture, but they have a rough but strategy for the urban situation. So we proposed not only architectural proposal, not only propose a beautiful facade, but to propose some extra meanings for the urban situations. And they understand quickly what it is. And now they are very strong developers, so they have an empty lot, small empty lot around these streets. So they like to put some 1 or 2 boxes on such an empty plot they have. So then our proposal is not only limited in our site, but to start spreading throughout the street. So it is now could be the design of the street or design of the urban textures. And you could feel some of the boxes, white boxes, are spreading around the street, so the character of the street could be defined by these kind of urban structures. So it is quite exciting process, and maybe very, very unique situation in Japan, because in Japan we don't have a very strong order of the urban situations. We have more empty space and the independent buildings and the strange contrast of the different designs. So we could add some extra boxes to create half continuity of the street and half diversities of the street as well. So it is now on design and will be maybe finished next year. And this is another example to create the beautiful networks, including the landscaping and the architectures by the combination of the smaller pieces. Yeah, again, if we divide architecture in smaller pieces and recreate the networks of the smaller pieces, then it could have a space to include some different things. For example, include outside or include some different unexpected events. And in this case, the site is quite beautiful, hilly landscape. And the program is very simple, small art gallery to exhibit maybe 4 or 5 paintings or objects in it. So we proposed not to make the one box of the art gallery, but to divide the exhibition space in these smaller pieces of the boxes. Each box is now 3 by 3 by 3, so it's quite small and scattered in the landscape. And the important point is each box has its own wall as a glass on one side, one surface, the glass surface. So you could see some paintings or art pieces not only from inside but from outside. Then it has different meanings. They're scattered around through the landscape. It is the exhibition in outside, or of course inside, the in-between situations. And we carefully adjusted the direction of the boxes. So from this, you could see straight these paintings and some of these paintings, but impossible to see this. So you start to walk around, and you could find some different paintings is coming to your view. Or you could walk between, then you could find different compositions of the art pieces throughout the landscape. So it is the experience to strolling or the walking around in the forest to encounter the unexpected art pieces. But at the same time, you could come into this box to feel more intimately into each art pieces. So it is the integration of the exterior experience and interior experience and art pieces and the landscaping in the very simple strategy. So yeah, you could see some colored pieces. This is the art pieces, and from behind you just see the boxes. So you could, if you see the boxes, then it shows some things behind is appearing. So you walk around and then you will find. And we are calling this is the smallest, largest art museum, because each boxes are quite small, the 3 by 3 by 3. So maybe as an art museum, it is the smallest one. But if you spread around these boxes, for example, 1 kilometer long, then it is a huge experience to walking around, and including this experience, unexpected areas of the forest, or even in urban situations, it's possible to do that. The box is something like this. This is a site. The site is in Aix-en-Provence, France. And the client is the rich guy. He has a huge land. It's a winery. It's a winery. But not only the huge land, but he likes to have art pieces on site, and he likes to have pavilions, many pavilions on that site, winery. So he already have the Tadawando building, and the Genève building, and the Frank Gehry building. And he is now commissioning more Africa guys, the Norman Foster or the Renzo Piano or something like that. So it's a really crazy paradise of the architecture and art. And our part is not small, but not big, but it is the really nice environment. And we made, you could see these wooden frames. This is the mock-up of each boxes. Because, yeah, the site, of course, natural landscape, and we made the model, but it's almost impossible to decide the directions and the positions of the boxes. So we asked them to make this kind of a simple frame mock-up, and I'm going on site and like to decide on site. But it's, yeah, of course it's difficult because huge frames, small but big, 3 meter high. And if it's 10 centimeter push or 10-degree rotate, something like that. And it's kind of an endless process. So we are doing this from last year, but not yet fixed. So I have to go again to Aix-en-Provence to have a nice food and a nice wine, and maybe slightly adjust one box and coming back for the next occasion to experience, to enjoy the vacation in Aix-en-Provence. But anyway, sometimes it's nice to have such a kind of a nice schedule, not quite hurrying, urgent. It's more relaxing to make the precise, perfect situation for the architecture. So it's okay. In Tokyo, it's more urgent. Everything is very, very quick. And in China, recently we have a really, really quick situation. So I'm enjoying such kind of a nice contrast between cultures or between the site and between different climates. Okay, and I think I'm afraid it's almost 1 hour, and today I talked too much about each images, so I have to finish maybe very quickly. But I'd like to show some more project, and this is the project. You could see the huge models on site on the exhibition space. We want 100 models, and this is the competition-winning project in Belgrade, Serbia, to design a new urban plaza just next to the old part of the city and the heritage fortress and the river, Sava River. This river is just connecting to the Donau River, so it's very important triangular site. And this has been abandoned for this, I think 40 years something. So city government decided to develop this very important point for the new urban plaza and hub for the traffics. So they have a trams around, and they will have a water taxi here, and they have the Donau cruise area there, and many people will go to the fortress. So we did a simple research about the surroundings and realized many different kinds of things is coming in, the flow, different kinds of a flow is coming into the site and coming out from this site to various different directions. So it is something like this. The flow of the people and the flow of the traffics are like this. So we just trace these kind of situations, translate to the form of architecture. So that is the result. So just tracing the situation, now it is happening or it could happen, and then just to give a form as it is. So here from the fortress you could walk down. We have two different routes, this and this, the coming inside. And of course we have a shortcut staircase and escalator, so you don't have to walk too much to going down. And this is the water taxi areas, and then the Donau cruise station there, so people walk different directions. But finally, the final destination is this center of the spiral. It is really dense areas of the plaza, and we could have, maybe it is like the urban version of the Guggenheim. These are crazy spirals, but more bigger and more urban. So naturally, this is a more like a landscape or hilly landscape, not too much exposing object. So in an experience, it is more like a landscape, but then you could see these kind of urban infrastructure feelings or architectural feelings. If you go up, it is more architectural or streetscape, but this gap is sometimes like works like a furniture, and between these gaps we put some programs like cafes and something, and shops and exhibition space. So it is a huge complex, but made by very simple way, but each space experience is quite complex. So in here, again, the nice integrations of the landscape-like things, architecture or urbanscape, and the nice integrations of the simplicity and complexity. And now this project is, according to the government statement, it is slowly ongoing. It means almost stopped. So, because of maybe the political reason and economical reasons. And this site is just abandoned. So I think it's very, very pity, but that kind of things I understand could happen in every situation. So it is the nice experience for me to challenge to this competition and to understand how architectures are deeply relating to the urban context. And not only following the urban context, but re-understand the urban context and recreate the urban strategies on this site. And then the architecture is coming from that, or is emerging from that. So in Japan, yeah, we don't have such a strong urban context. But yeah, recently we have more project in abroad, and then I understand it's more exciting to get an inspiration from such kind of a strong urban context or strong regulation of the climate, something like that. Then we got inspirations, and to recreate or to re-understand beyond that, it is a nice experience of the creations. And maybe I have to say this is should be the last project. I have more images, but I will stop. This is, in a sense, strange, smaller version of the Belgrade. Just a one slope of the roof. This is a private house, starting from this to the ground and going up slightly, and to create a room under the roof and gardens on the roof, sloping gardens. So you will see, you can cut this piece to create the one private house. And this is in Osaka, but the site is surrounded by houses. So we just like to open to the sky and to this direction, west directions. They have a small forest to that. You can see the sloping landscape with trees, but trees are, yeah, I intended to create kind of a strange artificial tree pot, tree forest on this artificial landscape hill. And they are the family of the client. And we put many windows on it. And from this window and from above, you can open and coming inside. So you can have a different access to the gardens from inside to upper level or to the lower level. And if you go out of here, come up and come down. So it's a more three-dimensional promenade of the house. And the back side of the forest. And we put the small hut on it. So this is more architecture, and then this is more like a landscape or hill or something like that. And this is a section. So you can see how simply it is made. Sloping roof and the hut, and this is the main level. But we made the sunken living space. And then kitchen, and then going up to the upper level. And you could go out here and coming like this. So this is a more like a outside landscape and inside landscape, and the bedrooms and the bathrooms are around here. Yeah, again, and we put the furnitures on the roof. So it is kind of a strange integrations, landscape, furniture, architectures, trees, natures, and everything. And from the street, you could see, the shape of the house. It is not like a house, but something like not like mountains. Yeah, like this building. Yeah. So if you like to go on the roof, it must be very, very exciting to walk around this roof. And inside, inside is like this. So in front, the sunken living space, and then the main level, and go up. And if you like, go up to the roof. And you can see we put the many windows on it. So the gentle light is calm and then reflects on the floor to light up the ceilings. So the inside is very calm, like a calm cave, and really protected feelings. But we have big windows open to the sky, so calm, protected feelings and open feelings together. Yeah, nice family. Really different height, Nice. Yeah, these photos are done by Ivan Baum, the famous guy, and he's my good friend. And this is on the cover of the architecture record in US. So every time Ivan is taking, mainly the families don't care about architecture, but it's the point of him, and it's quite successful because, of course, I'm sharing his visions. I don't want to make architecture as a beautiful object you have to see, but I like to make an architecture as a lively space where people can behave as they like and enjoy the space. So the house NA, the many steps house, that photos are done by Ivan Baum as well. And if you see the many stepping house, it's really crazy stepping. But if you have families, if you have peoples inside and naturally using, it is more real and full of life. So architecture has, of course, the meanings by people. And if you can make the nice architecture, then that architecture could have a nice conversation with the client, with the people who are there. And the nice conversation are creating new activities or new understanding of the place. So it is the intention of my architecture thinking. Okay, yes, it's almost over. So this is the presentation, but I hope you to enjoy the whole models. And some of the models are quite, how to say, conceptual or like a trash. But you could freely think about the different networks, different understandings of the meanings of the models, or different connections, which models, which ideas combine together to create different ideas. So it's very open field, so I hope you do enjoy. Thank you very much.